Hey, Clemson family, the Tigers took a step in the right direction with a 31-16 win over Louisville on Saturday that again showed this year's team can hurdle the challenges in front of them.
I'm Daniel Shirley. There's two more hurdles left before the ACC championship game, but we can't get that far ahead of us. Let's look back at that win over the Cardinals.
I'm Bill Zimmerman. Welcome to episode 41 of the Reign Supreme Alway podcast. We want to be your source for analysis of the Tigers in 2022. All our episodes are on our homepage. Check out clemsonkickoff.com. You can also follow us on social media at Clemson Kickoff. Check us out on youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff as well. Give us a quick subscribe or a follow. We can keep you up to date whenever and wherever you want to listen. Well, out of that Louisville game, let's start by talking about the defense, which impressed me because even without Trenton Simpson or Xavier Thomas, the Tigers still managed to corral Malik Cunningham, the quarterback of the Cardinals. They kept the 24-year-old fifth-year senior to 75 yards passing and 33 yards rushing. That was the first half total. He was injured and did not play the rest of the game. But Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney credited his team with playing the physical brand of football that the Tigers had lacked at Notre Dame a week earlier. And I think it was pretty obvious in how they kept that Cardinal offense limited all day long.
It was impressive effort by the defense. I was really happy to see the team be more physical up front on both sides, but specifically on the defense. You know, Malik, there was some talk Saturday afternoon he might not play. You saw him have kind of the padded glove on his left hand. I know it's his non-throwing hand, but it was pretty clear, you know, watching him in pregame warmups that he wasn't 100%. And, you know, I was watching him, you know, interact with the center in pregame, and he was clearly grabbing everything with his throwing hand. He was keeping his non-throwing hand out of the way. And then during the game, there were a couple of times where he got hit and went down, and he was, you know, he'd hold that left hand up and keep it from getting hit. And then he got popped at the end of the first half. And you think, oh my goodness, you don't ever want anybody to get hurt for the opposing team. But that was pretty clear after that hit. My thought was he's not coming back in the game, and he did not. So, yeah, I thought, look, the defense gave up 400 yards of offense. That's a lot to say it played well, but a lot of those yards were in chase mode by Louisville. So I thought the defense was solid. I thought it took a huge step forward from where it was against Notre Dame, and hopefully that'll be a sign of things to come this last couple of weeks of the season.
Louisville did seem to get an upgrade when junior Brock Doman came in at quarterback. He's a product of Last Chance U School Independent Community College. They did have a more productive second half. A lot of that, like you said, was maybe garbage time, if maybe that's too strong a term for it in this case. But whatever the reason, Clemson did show that it is hard to sustain a drive against this defense for the Tigers this year, and the linebackers really led the way. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. keeps coming into his own, 12 tackles and a forced fumble. Barrett Carter moved out of his usual spot to the other side of the field to fill the role vacated by Trenton Simpson. And boy, did he shine brightly as a star. 8.5 tackles, 3.5 for loss, a big interception. And there was another surprise standout as the linebackers that I know you want to talk about.
Yeah, I was really surprised by the play of Wade Woodaz. You know, when he signed, he was kind of a throw-in guy at the end of the class, maybe for some fans. And then you see how he's progressed and how he's playing. Bill, he was all over the place. You know, he had the sack after the long play where it looks like Louisville maybe get a touchdown. So it forces a fumble. Louisville gets the ball back and they kick a field goal. But there were plays before that and there were plays after that where he's blowing up the play, maybe blowing up what decision the quarterback could make because he's in the right spot. And maybe he's in a spot where they didn't think he was going to be because he's a young guy, but he made the right reads a lot and was really a standout. Look, Barrett Carter's the star of the game. I don't think there's any denying that. I mean, everybody wants to talk about Will Shipley's hurdle, but Barrett Carter hurdles a blocker and gets a sack. I thought that was just as impressive as Shipley's hurdle, but Carter was outstanding. Woodaz was outstanding. You mentioned Trotter. Man, Trotter gets better every week. And, you know, he kind of plays through the whistle a couple of times a game, and you kind of worry, is he going to get a penalty here? Is it going to be a bad spot for a penalty? But they've kind of dodged any penalties with him so far, but he's playing really well. You know, if Clemson can add Trenton Simpson back in this mix, you know, hopefully Saturday against Miami, and then definitely next week against South Carolina. I mean, you're looking at a really fast, athletic, hard-hitting linebacker group. And that's what we want to see from those four and even, the guys after them. I thought the linebackers really took a step forward Saturday, especially after the way they played. And again, look, Louisville had 3 or 4 big plays, and a lot of their yards came off of those big plays. Other than that, I thought Clemson's defense did the job.
A very physical Notre Dame offense, a very large and physical Notre Dame offense. Syracuse is probably physical, but not as big. Louisville, really neither. So the Tigers did play a lot of nickel. Woodaz with not nearly as many snaps as the top 5 defensive backs, but maybe that wasn't an option against Notre Dame. Maybe Simpson was trying to play hurt against Notre Dame to bring some extra size into that matchup. Whatever it is, they certainly got things righted, got the ship moving in the correct direction. They weren't perfect, but perfect isn't the ask in college football these days. They did atone for the trouble from both of those games against Syracuse and Notre Dame. The defense helped make sure the Tigers controlled this game against the Cardinals, and their solid effort ended Louisville's 4-game winning streak that they came into this game riding. And Clemson set the tone early on defense. They came up with what you wanted. They forced those 3 and outs, not just the opener for the game, 3 of Louisville's first 4 possessions.
Yeah, it started strong, right? I thought the whole team started strong. I mean, the offense scores, and then the defense comes out 3 and out, and there's a punt. The third and long, and they give up a first down on the sweep. You don't want to see those things. And that happened again later in the game as well. And, then the long pass down the sideline where Nate Wiggins, got tricked on the double move. But again, other than that, I thought they did the job. And this was the kind of defense that you want to see. Aggressive, but smart and not reckless. And for most of the game, you saw that. There were a couple of times, and I texted you, why are you blitzing on 3rd and 21 or whatever it was? Just sit back and play coverage. But for the most part, I thought the game plan worked. And I thought it was a good step forward again for Wes Goodwin and for the players. It really felt like they were challenged during the week, and they responded to it. And I thought the secondary was excellent. Again, other than Wiggins getting beat deep on that one play, he played pretty well. Sheridan Jones has been really solid. The safety group has been good. Mukuba is all over the place. Safety, cornerback, whatever you want to call him. He's playing everything. And Dabo mentioned this too. Brian Brzee played as well as he's played in 2 years, right? Yeah. And he was all over the place and had a big hit early in that game where you're thinking, oh my goodness, I hope they don't throw a penalty. They would probably throw a penalty in the NFL for hitting the quarterback too hard. I thought the pressure was good. KJ Henry played well again. So I thought it was a solid all around performance by the defense. And you have to appreciate when a group is challenged that it responds. And as bad as Notre Dame was, this group responded. And that was impressive to me. And it's probably, we'll see how that carries over into the Miami game. I don't think Miami is a better offense than Louisville. I don't think South Carolina is a better offense than Louisville. So let's have these kinds of efforts these next 2 weeks. And you're looking at 11-1 going to Charlotte to play North Carolina.
Tyler Davis played so well. I'm pretty sure that the broadcast crew gave him credit for making a play when he wasn't even on the field at one point, unless there was the fastest substitution ever. I think they called his number and his number wasn't even out there. Well, look, subscribe to us at youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. Let's switch over to that offense. They really ran the ball well. That was the other thing you and I talked about going into the Louisville game. And they did that despite missing starting right guard Walker Parks and also some rumbles under the surface that Jordan McFadden hasn't necessarily been healthy. But Will Shipley looked really good. Phil Mafah, probably the best game of his career, not just number-wise, but just the eyeball test. He just looked really, really solid. And DJ Uiagalelei combined with those two guys for 235 yards rushing total. Each of the 3 had a touchdown on the ground. Uiagalelei ran well early to plant that option firmly in the opposing defense's minds. Shipley was tough as ever. Like you said, the heck of the hurdle move and then splitting 2 guys after landing and keeping his balance, keeping his momentum going forward. Mafah, that mix of power and quickness that I've known he's been capable of. I know you said it when he was coming out of high school that he could be a real diamond in the rough. What a day for the running game.
Look, I love Phil Mafah and Shipley too. Obviously, we love Will Shipley and what he's able to do. But Phil Mafah is a revelation to me. I mean, to watch him that big and be that fast, and he's physical and just knocking guys off of him. Everybody's going to point to the play in the fourth quarter where he's dragging guys, and maybe the offensive line's helping him and pushing him and pulling him in, and it looked like a rugby scrum there for a minute, Bill. But I thought just impressive was kind of some stiff arms. He gets on the outside and guys can't catch him. It's just unnatural for a running back to be that big and that fast. And then he is physical. And then Shipley runs hard every play. I mean, you can see that. And that probably led to his fumble at the end of the game in the fourth quarter. Klubnik gives him the ball and nobody blocks anybody. I mean, it was pretty much Shipley on the entire Louisville defense, but he's fighting for yardage, probably more than he should have at that point. And he fumbles the ball, and you see how he reacted on the sideline. Those things are not a positive. He's had some trouble putting the ball on the ground this year. He did put it on the ground earlier in the game, and thank goodness Joseph Ngata got on the ball, because that would have been a bad turnover. But other than the fumbles, he had one, Antonio Williams had one, and then DJ had one in the pocket. I thought the offense was solid. I don't know that it was great, but it was solid. And you take the fumbles out, maybe it would have been great, because those could have been, more scores there for that group. But the offensive line, I thought, stepped up, played pretty well, because we know Louisville brings a lot of pressure. They like to get after the quarterback, and I thought the offensive line held up pretty well. They did run block really well, which they've done for most of the year, except maybe Notre Dame. And then I thought the receivers were solid. They're not great, but solid, maybe outside of Antonio Williams. So a solid day for the offense. I want to see great. I want to see explosive. I want to see no turnovers. Stop fumbling the football. That's become a problem. But I thought solid is the best way to describe what we saw from the offense on Saturday.
Well, you mentioned Ngata, and not just the fumble recovery, but going over and making sure Shipley knew, hey, I got your back. We're a team. Shake that off. You're better than that. I mean, I loved seeing that on the sideline from him. Was really glad the cameras caught that. You can find us on social media, by the way, at Clemson Kickoff on both Twitter and Instagram. Let's talk about the passing game. I thought Uiagalelei did a nice job of reviving that, despite Louisville bringing a pretty capable pass rush. I mean, they weren't just out there to try to steal the ball away, rip the ball away, but they got some hurries and some pressures on Clemson, made Uiagalelei operate in less time than he's been used to, and he did a nice job. 19 of 27, okay, only 185 yards and one touchdown, but no interceptions. And that, to me, was a big key in this game. By the way, 10 of those 19 completions, including that touchdown, to true freshman receiver Antonio Williams, 83 yards total for him, and as many catches as the rest of the receivers had targets.
Antonio Williams has been terrific all season, and it's weird. I know he's a true freshman. He wasn't even here during the spring. He was a late arrival compared to some of the other guys, but he's been the best receiver on the team the whole year. Ngata's been solid. I think Ngata has had a good year. Is he what maybe we thought he would be when he got on campus? Maybe not, and the injuries have stolen most of his career. But he's had a really good year, solid. No mistakes, not a lot of drops, but Antonio Williams has been unbelievable. The ability for him to recognize down on the goal line that Louisville's playing off and soft, so he just slants in and DJ sees him for the touchdown is impressive. And he had a couple other plays where he optioned his route off the defensive guys and DJ found him. And those are really impressive moves by a freshman wide receiver who wasn't even here for the spring. So he's been really good and really impressed by him. Now, the bad, I think we've seen enough wide receiver screens to last us for a while. I think that play needs to be torn out of the playbook and thrown in the trash can because it's not working. And why is it not working? Lots of reasons. The blocking has been terrible. The throws don't look great. DJ doesn't look comfortable making those throws to a specific spot. And he's throwing behind guys. He's throwing high. He's throwing in front of guys. And it's not where it needs to be. So the timing on those wide receiver screens has been terrible. And then for me, Bill, the other bad, I need to see the tight ends over the middle a little bit more. I don't know where that has gone in the game plan, but they've got to get Davis Allen and Jake Brennanstool more involved in the offense outside of screens. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with the passing game. But when DJ had time Saturday to throw the ball down the field and to survey the field, I thought he looked really good. Is it great? No. Is it perfect? No. But it was good. And they need to give him some more opportunities to do just that.
There's got to be other ways to get the ball out wide, right? To get the defense to respect the full width of the field than just screen pass over and over and over again. And yeah, it was a neat little ripple that they threw one to Brennanstool instead of having him split wide to be a blocker. But it's still a telegraph that, hey, tight ends out wide, this is going to be a screenplay, regardless of who they're throwing to. There's suddenly 3-4 guys over there knowing exactly what's coming. And it doesn't matter who's blocking, who's catching the ball. The numbers game, it just isn't working out there. And then try to open things up over the middle. And right before we started this, I was saying my suspicion is maybe they're not confident in the offensive line opening up lanes for Uiagalelei to see guys over the middle as they were at the start of the year. I'm not sure that they're that much worse along the offensive line and pass protection than they were at the start of the year. Try it. At least let me see them give it a go, right?
Yeah, I think so. And look, there's a couple of things that how about fake the screen and throw it to the tight end over the middle? I mean, how about that? Let's do that. Let's see that a couple of times. I think also, Bill, when's the last time we saw a jet sweep? And they fake it to Shipley Saturday. Give it to him. Give it to him. They'll bring Antonio Williams in motion and then don't give it to him. I'm wondering if they're trying to save that for a later game or what's going on with that. But there's just a couple of pieces in the game plan that don't make a whole lot of sense right now offensively. And Saturday was an improvement for sure over the Syracuse game. It was an improvement definitely over in the Notre Dame game. So maybe they're headed back in the right direction, but there's still some parts of the game plan to me as I'm sitting there watching the game where I'm going, what are they doing? What are they trying to accomplish here? And look, maybe that gets derailed by penalties, right? Maybe it's derailed by the fumbles that we saw Saturday. Maybe they had something coming up that was going to work, but something is just a little bit off about the offense, and they need to get that figured out. Yeah, they can beat Miami playing like that. They can beat South Carolina playing like that. I don't know if they can beat North Carolina playing like that. They might need to have a Wake Forest offensive game to beat North Carolina. We'll see. But I don't think they can beat anybody who's going to be in the playoff playing like that either. And that has to be the goal, I think, at the end of the year, is to try to beat one of those teams and play better offensively.
Check out our homepage, clemsonkickoff.com, for those next 3 scheduled games. Let's switch over to soccer real quick. Not quite the finish to the ACC tournament that we wanted to see for the Clemson Tigers, but they did earn a first-round bye in the NCAA men's tournament when the draw came out today, Monday. They did make it to the ACC tournament final, and with that, they will be a national 6th seed, and they will play November 20th against the winner of the UCLA versus Cal Baptist game.
Yeah, really happy to see the number 6 seed. I think this team has earned that. I know the regular season hasn't been great, but there have been so many injuries and so many guys out of the lineup. Who knows who's going to play each game almost the way the season has gone. The game Sunday was disappointing because they had such a good run through the tournament to get to that point. You wanted to see them finish it off. But it does still feel like this team has its best in front of it. And can it win another national title? I don't know. I mean, they're going to have to go through Syracuse if they're going to do it, most likely. Syracuse is the 3 seed, so they're right there in the bracket with them. But this team showed a lot last year. I think it's shown a lot this year, even though the season hasn't been exactly what you would have thought going into it. I think they've shown a lot with how they've responded to a lot of adversity with injuries and those kinds of things. So it's going to be fun to see how they can finish it off these next couple of weeks.
Well, I don't want to wrap this up before we send a lot of love to Charlottesville, Virginia. Former Clemson assistant Tony Elliott, who is now head coach with the Cavaliers. As Darian Rencher put it on Twitter, the worst day that any coach can imagine, with the loss of 3 players in a shooting near campus. It's hard to put into words just how awful it is.
It is. It's gut-wrenching. It's hard to even imagine having to go through that. And we'll see how they respond. We'll see if they play Saturday. They may not. There's been some talk that they won't even finish the regular season, but those are decisions for later. This is a time for healing. This is difficult. You just can't even imagine what the parents are going through, what the teammates are going through, what the coaches, everybody on the campus. You should not go to a college campus and not feel safe and have these kinds of incidents on these college campuses. And that's what we saw again this weekend. It's just difficult to even put your mind around this stuff, that this can happen. And certainly, you send your prayers to Tony and his family and the families of those who were in the incident, and the teammates and the coaches and everybody on the campus. You just can't even put it into words what this could mean.
Devin Chandler, Ledvell Davis Jr., Deshaun Perry. May they rest in peace. May their teammates and their families and their friends and their loved ones just keep the good memories close as soon as they can. It just devastating. Beautiful coverage here and there, just honoring those 3 young men, and obviously some typical news coverage as well about the case itself. I know the shooter has been apprehended, had ties to the football team years ago, and apparently I haven't heard much about the interaction, much about what prompted the shooting, but just senseless. I just can't imagine anything like this. Like you said, a college campus you would think would be safe. I mean, there was a day when you and I were in Clemson. I traveled hundreds of miles from home to go there. Never once felt unsafe on campus. And, when I grew up in Central Florida as a kid, and, Ted Bundy did some of the things he did not very far from where I lived. And you just never thought about Clemson being a place like that. I've been to Charlottesville to attend a game just for fun and felt incredibly safe the whole time. And I just hope that things can change, that at some point there's a wake-up call, that we can find different ways to handle things than this.
Yeah, it's difficult. It really is. It's difficult to put into words what those folks are feeling. As a parent myself, I can't even imagine what the parents are going through. And, being around college coaches, we know how much these players mean to these coaches and what they mean, what teammates mean to each other. And to just see this happen, it's sickening. It's disheartening. It's disgusting. But it will also hopefully bring out the best in the human spirit for the players, the coaches, and they'll honor these young men in the appropriate manner. And hopefully they aren't forgotten. They will be remembered, and Virginia will bounce back. But it's just right now, it's just a terrible time for sure.
Again, love and support to everyone up there in the University of Virginia family. So we will be back in a few days with another episode. Somber note to close out on, but until next time, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers and Cavaliers.